is under attack.
Having a little mystical intervention there. Saves him from a worse fate.
He's going to run into Tofu here. The corners are important. The gem, he's going to spot, turns around, bushwhack. Now the TP comes in. Boxy not getting this pick off he was hoping for.
Well, they get the kill down bottom they were looking for eventually here. They just still up for 230. Time for Doraccio to poke this high ground again. Pretty much only have to think about the toss back here.
Toss the board, actually hits the Enchantress instead of the creep wave.
Very hard to go in for this toss back when the pit's laid down. You don't have BKB on this Tiny. No Force Staffs to really bail him out. It would be an all-in committal.
And also, kind of want to just keep tossing just to harass.
All right, Mickey came back, so you got to take this fight right now. You're getting nothing off the map.
All right, Mickey, he's going to try and draw a little tension, see if they can get an opening here. Nisha blinked.
It's like back.
Went backwards there. Probably a mistake.
It's pretty tempting to just toss this Underlord back.
Oh, do you though? This Underlord also has an Ogre Seal Totem, so he's going to reposition himself. He's not going to die easy, and he's going to be able to get back to his team. Liquid just not finding any openings right now against Game of Gladiators. Stomp attempted, whiffed.
I mean, if you're going to toss somebody, it's got to be now.
You get the full lane. Nisha does not get a toss back opportunity.
Didn't even get what they came for.
As they go back, Game of Gladiators. I was about to say, nobody go up the death alley here. Let's go all the way back through the jungle.
See Liquid smoke out. Try and use some of the Nyx scouting. You got a deep ward on this cliff. Boxy planted that I don't think Gaming are going to be aware of in the short term. Though in the long term, Gem will make short work of it. I mean, you got to find something soon here. You are massively getting out farmed during these periods.
Yeah, the end is coming. 40 seconds left on the Aegis. A smoke and a fast move from Game of Gladiators. They're going to go straight to it with this Octarine, straight to Mickey. Mickey in some trouble, gets bashed up, 33. Might need to bail him out. They go for the toss backwards here a little bit. And now trying to drag him in with the shard. Still no roar being used. They want to try and kill this Aegis without expending that quite. They do manage to get with your splitter.
Looking for another toss back. If you can get the Ursa in deep again.
Oh, Nisha, he gets attacked by some damage from Celery. Isn't going to be able to get it. Instead, tosses a creep out to Doraccio. They will hold.
Heads up play from Celery there. Prevent that Tiny blink going off.
Yeah.
Could have easily comboed up Doraccio. Still have Boxy hunting on the backside, but honestly, he is no threat, and it's hard for Liquid to make moves to this guy.
Gets too close. Tofu's going to spot him. See his Tormentors going on right now.
It's a second Tormentor steal of the game.
Yeah.
Really adds up. We saw the Ags finish for the Underlord as well, so if you ever catch these heroes on the map, they're just absolutely gone, particularly the ones without BKB. Doraccio is not done. Does not need an Aegis to push.
Got the toss. Didn't get him backwards. Straight up the air. Nisha just dies for that little attempt. Liquid did not seem ready for that whatsoever. Now 33 is going to be forced to use his BKB Primal Roar, and Doraccio has shrugged off that damage pretty easily. Mickey drains some, but there's just no damage going back to the Game of Gladiators. They have to use a buyback here for the Tiny just to see if they can keep this going a little bit. Try to go for the toss, hit the 4 instead, and now a Rolling Thunder is going to green Nisha, and he gets demolished by the Ursa. The damage is too immense, man. It just overwhelms that big rock man. As tanky as he is, the Ursa is so far ahead of Liquid, and they are tapping out in this game 1.
Ace had such a free game. He gets Pipe, he gets Greaves, he has Crimson. The second triple Aura's online. You're never winning another 5-on-5. You couldn't contest the Roshans. You got a little bit outlaned. The Enchantress ran the map early. And the biggest story of this game to me, I was talking about the supports. like Liquid need Boxy to be the one controlling the moves, controlling the pace, delivering some pickoffs or some teamfight wins. He had no impact this game. This Nyx was not able to find anything, and that's a huge blow for this team that relies on him to be one of their biggest shot callers and playmakers. Going into game 2, that's going to be that has to be something they remedy here. And you also have to think about some of these core traits, right? Like this Beast versus the Underlord. How much are you happy with that if the Beast has a worse lane? This Tiny versus Gaming, who are happy to give it away and just put something there that free farms. If you're not having supports that can play through the Tiny and snowball with them and get power runes, and his camps are getting stolen away because your supports lost that early game as well, then this Tiny feels a lot slower. I think Gaiman did a lot to address some of the core picks for Liquid, and I mean, it shifts a lot of the onus onto Blitz here and 33 to figure out what they want to do for this next game.
Yeah, I think that's, I'm glad you pointed out the Nyx Assassin, because it was also a huge detriment to the Beastmaster in lane, right? Like, they lost that lane so hard. The Beastmaster that has been extremely reliable for Team Liquid just got absolutely thrashed in the laning phase and was never a source of strength. It was never something that Liquid could actually rally around. It wasn't strong enough in timing wise to be able to hit the Roshan. They weren't able to play team fights around it, and that's been their go-to. It's been one of their most reliable strategies of this tournament, and it gets completely thwarted by Gaming Gladiators.
Well, I know that Boxy said that if they went the first 20 minutes, normally they would win. They did live through the first 20 minutes, but barely, Jenkins.
Yeah, I don't think that he was applying that if the game was a 29K gold deficit at 20 minutes. That was a complete disaster for Liquid. I think probably back to the drawing board for them. There was the, 4 melee heroes into Underlord. That looked pretty bad. Celery looked kind of unkillable on the Enchantress. I'm actually really impressed with him on the Ench, which I suppose is a very common thing to say when you see a Celery Enchantress. But I honestly think the way he played it, Ench counters Nyx, not the other way around. He just went through the portal and ganked the safe lane because Ench is one of the best gankers in the game for going through the portal. And his Ursa was free farming anyway because there's a Nyx cutting the creep wave.
I'm just wondering, they already have to Team Liquid already has to ban out his Chen in the first phase, right? Did he just prove that maybe you should also ban out his Enchantress? Because it feels at some point is like, why ban one of the two if they're doing exactly the same in such a strong way?
I think so. I think you try the Nyx. It's considered the, creep hero counter. It doesn't work out. I think there's been multiple patches of Dota 2 for Gaming Gladiators where Chen and Ench get banned in the first phase. It's not an unfamiliar thing against them. I don't think you want to have an ego or too much pride and not ban that out. I'd much rather leave the Tiny in. I mean, they even left the Pango until the last phase pick. So I feel like in terms of how Gaiman wants to play the game, where they have the tempo, they have the pipe, they have the mech, those are the two heroes that let them play like that.
We said at the end of the draft that it felt like both teams had something that they were comfortable with, but we're still talking about it as if this was a draft diff in terms of how Gaiman was able to demolish Team Liquid.
I think so. I mean, I think it was an out draft. I think it was probably 70-30. Back to the drawing board on that one. It's just that the way that Blitz likes to draft is that he goes for a window of opportunity to win the game. However, I do believe the window in that game was very small, and because of Gaiman's incredible early game play, they couldn't hit the window. So if you pick a better draft and get a bigger window, it gives you more room for error. And against this team and how they look like peak Gaiman right now, you want some room for error because there's going to be mistakes.
Didn't look like Gaiman had many errors on their end. Was there anything in terms of itemization or anything like that that Team Liquid could have done differently? Maybe different facets?
There's a lot of good facets in that game. We saw the Tiny Toss. It was doing some work. Nisha really tried his best. That's one of those facets where if you're ahead, it feels really strong. If you're behind and against the pipes, it doesn't work out. But speaking of facets, Celery with that Enchantress, walking up the high ground, he felt unkillable. With the healing facet. Like, that feels really OP right now.
It really does, and I'm sure that Brian is gonna highlight some of that as well, as we're gonna head over to him to hear what he has to say.
For those of you who haven't gotten the chance to watch or play too much Dota recently, there was a big patch that gave all the heroes a choice, most of them at least, between two facets at the start of the game. And these facets have made some of these heroes super strong, viable, and also changed a little bit about the way they play. And so I just want to touch on a few facets from this game and how it had impact on the heroes. So first, we're going to be looking at Elder Titan's new facet, which when we pull it up, we're going to see a big 5-man ET Spirit, and his facet at the top, Momentum here, he has a 75% or 75 attack speed penalty, but he gets 30% of his move speed towards his attack speed. So when we play this out and he has the Spirit going, he has 395 attack move speed, which is approximately 120 bonus attack speed minus the 75. He's rocking an extra 50 attack speed in this root engagement, allowing Insania to deal out a significant amount of damage compared to what he would have prior to the facet patch. So we're going to pull up the next facet, which is Hoodwink, which is why she's getting picked very often in the early game, which is a facet that allows her Acorn Shot to bounce off of trees, not requiring a second unit to be there, which allows her to use it against a solo hero like you're seeing here. It's going to hit the ET, then it's going to bounce off the tree, and you effectively get twice as much harass damage in lane, and why Hoodwink feels so strong in lane right now. And then when we pull up the next facet, we have Tiny. When you think about toss, you've always thought about blink tossing people back, and usually the person who gets tossed is taking the most amount of damage. However, with his new facet, as we're going to crunch the numbers a little bit here, we pull up toss damage. It does 320 damage at max level. If we pull up Tiny's ultimate, which makes toss do more damage flat on the target that you toss, we see that it's 100% or 100, excuse me, extra damage. So 420 total damage on toss if you were to toss the unit itself. However, with the new facet, we're going to check out this crash landing here. He gets 40% bonus damage if a unit is landed on. 40% of 320, that's actually over 120 damage. So it's actually more damage to toss something onto somebody rather than tossing them, the unit themselves. So what are you going to see in this Tiny gang? Something very different than before, which is that when Nisha goes in, he's going to find the Enchantress. Instead of tossing her back, he's actually going to go back to his own teammate and toss his teammate on top of the Enchantress for maximum damage. And for the last facet of the game is the one Jenkins alluded to, which is Enchantress's heal facet, which makes it so for every 250 damage you take, you get a healing wisp that effectively heals you for 4 seconds based on how much your level of your wisps are, which right now they're healing for 8 HP per second. So every 250 damage he takes, he's getting 32 HP back over the course of 4 seconds. And we're going to see that play a crucial role in Celery's ability to walk into the enemy triangle and effectively body for the rest of his team, as we're going to see Liquid desperately down by 3k already, going on with Nisha's Tiny as well as Boxy, and he's going to live with about 100 HP. And this is a situation where if Tiny knew he was one hit away from dying, he may be willing to commit, but because he still has over 100 HP from this new facet, it makes that big of a difference. So this is just pointing out a little bit of how these facets play a role in these heroes getting picked, how they change the way these heroes getting picked, and I feel like we've learned a lot about facets.
People underestimate just how much these guys need to live this game in order to do well. And I should know, Team Liquid almost wins with everything. When a new patch drops, everything changes. Our habits, our gameplay, but with every patch, our lives change with the game. Like literally. After the last patch rolled up, we just woke up and we're like, what the hell are these?
Worked out better for some of us than others.
Every morning it's the same. Wake up at 1 p.m, hit alarm, and choose the facets for the entire day. You pick the wrong one accidentally, and all of a sudden, the entire day is screwed.
Oh. Dude, there is absolutely no way. I'm gonna lose my mind.
I'm not a fan.
Misclicking facets can be bad, sure. But some people just have garbage facets. Unlock. Amar, what do you want to do today?
Brother, you can pick one of these two. Doesn't matter. Anyone is really good.
Snaking, can you please pick your good facet today? Snaking. Snaking. Snay!
Hey Siri, tweet UOG.
Letting players choose their own facets puts a lot of pressure on us coaches. Because, you know, players are idiots.
Hello, Habibi, what is this?
What? This? Bro, I took it for the armor.
Sure, bro, it's only for the armor. You filthy stealing Rubik.
What's the matter if I take 1 kill or 2? At the end, we're one team.
Stop stealing my kills.
兄弟，给我看看你的命使。
兄弟，我只有一个命使，他出 bug 了。我只有一个命使，你知道吗？
兄弟，没有人会想和一个13分钟一级的大神玩游戏。给我看看你的命使。
Hey, buddy, how you doing today? You feeling fine? Everything's good? Let's get you a nice haircut, okay? We're gonna make you look pretty. And also your friend can watch. That's totally fine.
You're gonna give this guy the best haircut of his life. Do you know who this guy is? This ignition god from Indonesia, the Jakiro god. Look at him. He needs to be look smacked right now. He needs to be look smacked right now. Let's go, baby. It's all good in the hood. Run it back. Let's go. Let's go.
Look at that. Oh, we zoomed in on the white wine haircut for whatever reason.
Look at that. That's uneven. I'm so upset with that. I really am. He had such nice hair too. That's the worst part.
I've been around for a long time and play a lot of different patches. And to me, new patches, they motivate me. Oh, come on. Yeah, it can be a little demotivating too. My facets suck. At least I got a huge innate.
It's the EWC and you want to play like a pro. Well, we've got a lesson for you. Axe on. You're fresh, ready to fight and grind those long hours. It's how it should be. Axe off. You're slow, unfocused, and lagging. Do you get it? Let's go again. To unleash your best game, you must freshen up first. Get your axe on. Spray, play, repeat. Axe and Esports World Cup.
We are getting ready for game number 2 here between Team Liquid and Gaming Gladiators in our upper bracket finals. I must say, after watching the first series of the day between Falcons and PSG Quest, and that game 3 was so epic, I was a little bit disappointed with this first game, but we have to give credit where credit is due. Gaming absolutely crushed it, Effie.
They really did. That early game was incredibly clean, and ultimately that is what elevated them over Liquid. But I also think that Liquid really drafted themselves into a very small window of effectiveness. I mentioned it in the pre-game that I think that Gaming's draft was comfortable at every stage in the game, whereas Liquid's draft had a very small window to be effective in that first 25 minutes, but they really just couldn't get anything going. And I think a good place to start for Liquid would just be to put Boxy in a more playmaking type of hero, because the Nyx just didn't work for them, Brian.
Yeah, and you mentioned in the pregame panel of Game 1, Mira, that like this Underlord counters Tiny's playstyle pretty hard. There were a couple times where Nisha was trying to make a solo play for the burst damage combo, where in theory, worst case scenario, he's just going to walk away. But then the Underlord portal from anywhere on the map just appears behind him, and then it seemed like half the time his only escape was to try to go through the portal itself, and that didn't work out. So it feels like Gaming just had Team Liquid's number on just basically foreseeing what they're going to pick, knowing preemptively, like, we picked the Underlord before you're Tiny, we know it really deals well with it if you still plan to pick it. So it seemed like their bread and butter was good against the bread and butter of Team Liquid, and it was very calculated. Enchantress against Beastmaster, Underlord against Tiny, etc.
Yeah, I love how Celery played the ENG, honestly, when he went through the portal and just said, okay, you want to cut my creep wave, the Nyx Assassin, kill my creeps, you're letting my carry freeform. Guess what? Enchantress is one of the best heroes at turning a dual lane into a tri-lane and diving towers.
It's a quad lane with the creep.
But they're quad lane with the creep. Sometimes they even just send the creep, and they basically get an extra hero through the portal. But that was a really nice pivot from him. So I can understand why Team Liquid just bans out both the jungle heroes. Celery, he knows this stuff with these heroes, too much.
And Liquid just say, whatever, we're not giving you either of these, we'll expend a ban, we don't care. It's better than overcorrecting in our draft to try to deal with it. And I do like this approach, but now so much is left in the pool, right? You've got your Beastmasters, you've got your Snapfires, you've got, your Hoodwink gets taken out, you've got your Pangos, there's a lot to work with here. And of course, Sand King.
I actually think Liquid expected Gaming to ban Beastmaster in the last 2 bans of the first round after having banned Enchantress Chen. Like, I think that's why they banned it. And then I think they took so long on that Hoodwink ban because they were thinking, like, okay, like you mentioned, Mira, all these heroes are in the pool now. We've got our pick of the litter. Which one do we want? And they elect to go for the Sand King, which they played against Tundra's Sand King 3 games in a row yesterday, or 2 days ago. But now it's back in their hands. I think this is the first time they've gotten it in quite a while. It's almost always been first picked or ban against them.
So in the BB team series versus, was it XG? It was XG. They did play Sand King versus Pango, actually, in that mid lane. And GPK kind of owned the Sand King as a Pango. So I'm still not sure if that was a hero-specific thing or if XM just looked way too clumsy on it. But that could be a hero that they addressed the Sand King with already.
Yeah, I kind of chalked that up to a bronze tier Sand King with Dota Plus performance. But it's hard to say until we see it time and time again. I'm curious what Quinn thinks the counter to Sand King mid is, because clearly Gaming figured out the Tiny, so I trust that they have also figured out the Sand King, because these have been 2 of the problem heroes of the tournament. We've seen Invoker picked against Sand King, where you drop an EMP and the Sandstorm, and then he has to walk out of it. You're a universal hero, you do good damage, you're not walking into the creep wave and dying to the new Sand King spell. So, and it's also Quinn's most picked hero in this tournament, so I can see him going for that.
There's also a Primal Beast versus Sand King that I think really could work. Also, I believe Mage Slayer Ember could be really effective versus Sand King, and Liquid themselves 2 days ago showed us Eyelash versus Sand King. So all of these things you have to have in mind when you are picking it in the first phase.
Yeah, and keep in mind the Brewmaster is still in the pool as well, for now.
And I think Sand King is very good against Brew. So.
Okay.
I think that's partially why they picked it. Is they still end up banning the CK. I was going to ask them about that because it's good against Brew, it's good against CK, the Sand King I'm talking about. I did just want to know, I looked through to confirm the last 5 games Liquid played, Tundra and Team Spirit, their respective opponents, first pick Sand King, like every single game. And then up until 10 days ago was their last game of Sand King on Team Liquid, and the only reason they haven't picked it is because it's been first round banned every single game. So
was it that good when they played it?
I mean, they were winning.
Okay.
So like in all of the 2-3 games on this page, they were winning. So clearly, like there's a reason that this has been getting first pick, first ban. Every team thinks that this is like the staple hero for Team Liquid, and Gaimin showed that like, oh, we give you Tiny, we give you Beastmaster, 2 other staple heroes for Team Liquid, and they now give them a different one and say, hey, we'll beat this one too. I respect the courage there.
Mm-hmm. And with this Invoker ban by Gaimin, they're also respecting the potential of the Sand King to be played offlane. It doesn't necessarily have to be their mid hero, and this is a 3-3 specialty hero from way back in this 100 days, when he would pick Sand King and just split push and be a huge nuisance.
Where's the 33 Enigma? Is that just because I feel like when you see like Weaver, Brewmaster having like that reliable lockdown is super nice, and it's a summons hero. It can buy minor auras like drums and stuff. Doesn't usually buy bigger auras like Greaves because it goes like Blink BKB. But I guess it would reveal your flex.
Mm-hmm. So the Sand King versus Brew dynamic, it has changed a little bit with how Gaimin have been playing Brew. They've been skipping the Radiance, and they've been going Vessel, Pipe, Crimson, and then you just use those auras and your Brewlings don't die in Sandstorm like they used to. But I still think it's a very advantageous matchup for Sand King. However, though, Ace has looked so high tempo on it that it does fit into what GG plays, and they don't really care about the counter.
Yeah, I guess this is similar to what Liquid picked against GG in the last game, which is a little concerning for GG, but I also think they just outplayed in the fact that they have picked into what is now considered to be quite a counter, because Stinger does physical damage, so you burrow in and you kill all the Brewlings pretty much, but the...
Well, if you kill one, you kill them all pretty much, right?
Yeah,
the Cossack
exactly. It does so much damage. And Gaimin is saying, well, okay, we're so confident in this tempo that Mira was talking about, this window that we have with this hero, that we're going to beat it anyway.
Wow.
What do we make of this early Troll?
Because you can see the Brew, you can play Troll, and Troll would also be good versus Weaver if it were a flex to carry.
It's the dispel aspect of Ags for Troll. It's just a super cheap, like, meaning when I say cheap, it's low cooldown, low mana cost. Brew doesn't have any silencers or anything like this. Weaver usually buys Gleipnir, so they're offering a lot of dispellable abilities and items coming out from GG, and Troll has been one of the best performing heroes of the tournament I've seen, at least later in the stages of the playoffs. And with Doom out of the pool, that's like one of the heroes that generally is insta-responded to Troll, and Doom's stocks have been rising consistently over the playoffs, and so I think Troll's going to be able to squeak his way in earlier in the draft more.
Is this some like Giga 5-head thing where they're picking Troll and Disruptor knowing that a Darkseer can't come out because there's a Panda on the other side, so that way on this 4th pick here they can get a Darkseer?
Well, I don't think they were... If you're picking Troll, the enemy's not going to pick Darkseer.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, so
you're preventing...
But they already have Brew.
No, I'm saying...
You mean
Darkseer for Liquid
could have picked Troll.
You're saying they're covering their own...
They're covering so they can pick a Darkseer.
That's so 5-head, I couldn't even follow your reasoning.
and then maybe CM Alk is to cover a potential Darkseer pick. Maybe less so Alk because he's a Radiant Spire, but I know it does decently well in lane with the CM.
Does this mean, by the way, that the Weaver is support, or can Alk go mid as well?
The flex is open between Alk carry and Weaver carry right now. And for Team Liquid, they still have Pango plus Tiny in the pool. Oh, they went for the Ember. I really like Ember in games where there are no reliable disables. Like, it's very, like, you're only worried about the Frostbite early on, but they don't have a really good way of locking you down. So it's a pretty solid Ember pick here. I want to talk about the Disruptor, too. We didn't get to talk about it. I personally love this hero versus Brewmaster and Weaver. It's one of the hardest counters to these two heroes. Weaver being mobility-based, hates being glimpsed back into Static Storm, hates Kinetic Field. Brewmaster, the way you counter this hero is that you just silence it before it can Brew Split, and that way you win the fight. Teams have moved away from Disruptor, but we did see it during play-ins by PSG Quest, and it looked pretty good in that game.
And it's a ground-targeted silence that's not affected by status resist, right? A lot of these other silences or stuns against Brew have looked kind of bad because you just brew yourself up and go for the purple form, and you have a ton of status resist. You pipe Crimson, you don't die.
Yeah, it's a similar concept to what I was thinking about with Enigma, but it comes from the support role. It also offers you a lot more catch rather than like the auras and momentum. So My only concern for Team Liquid right now when I look at their draft is they don't have any auras. Like, they've already locked in 3 of their cores. Usually, Sand King as an offlaner, even we saw Miero yesterday go like Bloodstone normal, like mid lane-esque Sand King. Maybe 33 will, you know, deviate a little bit in order to fulfill that role for his team. Maybe they feel like with Disruptor mobility, Sand King mobility, Ember mobility, we'll see a similar situation that we saw Tundra versus BB Team Game 1, where BB Team just never fought them, and then they won the game that way. So the Alchemist for Gaimin, I will say, I think is kind of like their discount CK. It represents like a similar pace. He gets 1 or 2 items, Radiance, Blink, BKB, in any given order, and runs at you. So I think that's why they usually use Alchemist, and it's like a blind pick, so it's more like setting up Quinn to carry the game, but having a tempo carry. I think that's what it is. I think it's pretty locked in, like Weaver 4, CM5, Alch carry.
What's the Ember hard carry counter? I mean, or not hard carry, the hard counter that will play in the mid lane against
I think
Ember. They banned out the SF and the Huskar. Monkey King is already out as well.
I mean, they're still the game in heroes, right? They're still Pango.
OD.